Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you, coming at you with a combo guide for Dracotail. Now that this new deck is here, I want to show you how to use it, not only in its pure variant, but also with King of the Swamp and Magistus as well. I'll be showing off some various builds towards the end of the video too. But for now, we're going to start with one of the more basic opening hands of Lukias plus any other monster card. So we're going to normal summon our Dracotail Lukias, and then we can activate the on summon effect, which will allow us to add Dracotail Faimena from deck to hand. Now we can activate our Faimena's effect. We're going to fusion summon Dracotail Arthelion using our on-field Lukias plus any monster card from our hand. Now after fusion summoning Arthelion, we get to do multiple trigger effects. We're going to want to do the Arthelion as Chainlink 1, adding back the Faimena from graveyard to hand, and then we're going to do the Lukias effect as Chainlink 2. You want to do Arthelion as Chainlink 1 to play around Ghost Spell. Now we can set Rahu Dracotail from our deck, and then we're going to add, as mentioned, the Faimena back from graveyard to hand. Now we can activate our face down Rahu Dracotail. We're going to fusion summon the Dracotail Golemel, and we are going to use specifically the Orgola from our deck and then the Faimena from our hand. And we'll fusion summon that right over here. This will trigger both effects of the monsters that we used as fusion materials to once again set any Dracotail spell or trap card directly from our deck. In this case, we're going to want to set up both of the trap cards that are in our deck, which is going to be Dracotail Flame, which has the ability to negate any spell card. Not going to want to destroy cards because we're the only one with cards on the field. And then also Dracotail Horn, which can bounce any attack position monster back to the hand / extra deck. But we're not done just yet. We're going to finally activate the Orgola Graveyard effect, and now we can return Dracotail Faimena to our hand. So this will end you on quite a bit of disruption. The Faimena that we returned, the effect of Fusion Summon is actually a quick effect, meaning that we can Fusion Summon during the opponent's turn. Of course, we also have our Golemel, which can destroy cards. And finally, our two face-down trap cards that we established earlier. This is a very basic ending Dracotail setup, and often one you're going to see when playing this deck. Now, let's say in addition to what we previously started with, we open any Dracotail name. It doesn't matter which one of them it is, as long as it has Dracotail in its name. Then we can do the combo line like this. We're going to normal summon Lukias, and then we're once again going to add the Faimena from our deck to our hand. We'll activate the effect of Faimena to fuse the Arthelion, but this time we're going to fuse the two monster cards that are in our hand specifically. Now we can summon the Arthelion, and we're going to activate these trigger effects. Once again, we're going to do Arthelion as Chainlink 1 in order to play around the Ghost Spell. And we can return two monsters this time because we used two materials from our hand. We definitely need to get back Faimena, and then we could just grab whatever other monster card we used as material. And then, of course, we'll also get the trigger effect of whatever Dracotail monster that we fused in our hand, and that will allow us to set the Rahu from our deck. We're not going to destroy a card in this case, and we get our two cards back. Now we can activate, we're not going to want to activate the face down Rahu Dracotail just yet, because this will lock us into fusion summons. Before we activate that, very important, a mistake I almost made just there, we're going to first link off our Lukias into Spirit with Eyes of Blue, basically just turning it from a spellcaster monster into a dragon monster. That way we can link summon the Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres using our two dragon monsters on board. Now that we're done link summoning, we can activate Rahu Dragontail. We're going to fusion summon Golemel using the, meant to click on the bar there. We're going to use once again Orgola from our deck, and then we're going to use Faimena from our hand. Now this will activate multiple trigger effects, not even just the two that'll set cards from our deck. It'll also trigger our Arthelion to revive itself from the graveyard. Once again, we're going to do Arthelion as Chainlink 1 as a means of playing around Ghost Spell with a little bit of chain blocking. But of course, we're also going to trigger the other two effects in order to set the two Dracotail trap cards that are in our deck face down onto the field. So first it'll be Flame. And then we are also going to set the Horn as well. And then we get back our Arthelion. And don't forget to also then activate the Orgola effect in order to return the Faimena to your hand. So there you go. As you can see, opening even just one more Dracotail name, and it doesn't even matter which one it is, will allow you to add the Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres to your end board, which can be, of course, used to summon any number of Dracotail monsters, but one of the better ones to get is often going to be Mululu, which will allow you to not only quick fusion summon using its effect on your opponent's turn, but it will also then, when used as a material, negate one of your opponent's card effects. So it's very, very good to summon during the opponent's turn. Speaking of Dracotail Mululu, that card I was just talking about at the end of the last combo line, this card plus any other monster will also establish a Dracotail board. We're going to begin by normal summoning and then activating the on-field effects to fusion summon. We're going to go for Arthelian using Mululu plus any monster in our hand. Now we can do both trigger effects. As always, Arthelian should be Chain Link 1 to play around Ghost Spell. We are going to return the Mululu to our hand, and then we also get to use the Mululu effect from our graveyard in order to set Rahu Dracotail from our deck. Now we can activate the face down Rahu Dracotail. We're going to summon the Golemel, and we're going to use from our deck the Orgola, and then we can use Mululu from our hand. We'll fusion summon like so, and then we get the effect of the Orgola from our graveyard, and we're going to set one of our two Dracotail trap cards from our deck face down. Now, as far as which one is better to set, on turn 1, obviously you can't really know what your opponent's going to have as far as their plays, so what you want to set is actually going to be highly dependent on what's in your hand. For example, if you had like an Imperm and or an Effect Veiler, it'd probably be better to get Dracotail Flame instead of Horn, because you already have a way of dealing with monsters, and having a way to deal with spells would probably prove useful. However, if you are lacking like any hand traps at all, it might be better to grab Horn, as a monster card is a little more likely to be a threat than a spell card standalone. So again, which trap card you set is really just going to depend on how you open with the other cards in your hand. So obviously this end board isn't quite as good as opening with Lukias because you only have one of the trap cards instead of both of them, but it is still nice that Mululu acts as yet another starter for the deck. And if that other monster you have in hand is a Dracotail name instead of just a random monster, your board, if you open Mululu, is actually going to look even better. We are going to, once again, normal summon the Mululu, and then we'll activate the effect in order to fusion summon the Arthelian using our two Dracotail monsters. Now, this time we get to activate the trigger effect of not only our Arthelian in order to add back one of our monsters, but we also get the trigger effects of both of these cards. So we're going to go for the Mululu, as well as the Pan that we had in hand. So we're going to want to set the Rahu, and then I'm actually going to go ahead and set Ketu Dragontail, which we haven't really used mid-combo line just yet. Ketu Dragontail is a card that allows you to search Dracotail monsters from your deck to your hand. So we're going to go ahead and activate that, and I'm going to use the effect in order to add Dracotail Faimena from my deck to my hand. Now we're going to use the face down Rahu Dracotail, and I am going to fusion summon the Golemel using Orgola from my deck and then Faimena from my hand. And this will activate both trigger effects of Faimena and Orgola, so we can set both of the trap cards. We grab the other one here. And then, of course, we can activate the graveyard effect of the Orgola, and we can add the Faimena back to our hand. So yeah, definitely much better if we have any Dracotail name instead of just a random old monster. We not only get to have both trap cards, but also like the other combo line, we have the Faimena in our hand to quick fusion from hand as well. So we've been using Rahu Dracotail as a mid-combo extender for every line up until this point. However, this is actually a starter for our Dracotail deck as well. If you open Rahu plus any other monster card, you can begin by activating the Rahu, and we're going to summon the Arthelian using Dracotail Lukias from our deck and then any monster card from our hand as material. Now we can activate both trigger effects. We're going to go Arthelian, Chain Link 1, again as always to play around Ghost Spell, and we're going to return the Lukias to our hand, and then we're going to use the trigger effect of Lukias as Chain Link 2. And I'm actually going to want to set the Ketu Dracotail from my deck. Now we can normal summon Lukias because we have not summoned yet, and we're going to use the effect in order to add the Faimena from deck to hand. Now I can activate my face down Ketu Dragontail, or Dracotail rather, and this time we're going to want to add the Orgola to hand. Alright, let's activate the effect of Faimena. We are going to fusion summon the Dracotail Golemel using Lukias and Orgola as materials. This will activate the trigger effect of the Orgola, and then once again, whichever trap card you decide to set is mostly going to depend on what the rest of your hand looks like. Again, if you have something like Imperm to deal with a monster, it'll be better to grab Flame. Generally speaking, if you have less answers to monsters, you should grab the Horn. And we're not going to want to destroy a card, but we are going to want to use the graveyard effect of the Orgola, and then we will return the Faimena to our hand. So, once again, we have our setup here, and while it might not be as robust as having both trap cards, it is still, as always, better than nothing. However, much like the Mululu, if we open any Dracotail name instead of just having, a random monster card, our end board is going to look a little bit better. We're going to begin by activating the Rahu effect in order to fusion summon the Arthelion. We're going to fuse the Lukias in our deck and the Dracotail name in our hand. Now we can activate the trigger effects. We're going to use Arthelion in order to return Lukias to our hand as Chain Link 1. Again, play around Ghost Spell. And then we can do the graveyard effects of both of our monsters here. So we're going to go Chain Link 2, activate the trigger effect, yes. We're going to go Chain Link 3. And we're definitely going to want to set the Ketu. And then after that, you can just set one of the trap cards. Alright, so we return Lukias to hand. Let's go ahead and normal summon the Lukias. We can activate the effect in order to add Faimena to hand. And then we're going to activate Ketu in order to add the Orgola from deck to hand. Alright, let's activate the Faimena's effect. We're going to fusion summon Golemel using Lukias and Orgola. And then, of course, we get the Orgola effect in order to set the other Dracotail trap card from our deck. And then, of course, we also get the Orgola graveyard effect, and we'll return the Faimena to hand. So there you go. If you have a Dracotail name instead of just a hand trap or a random monster card, then you can go for the quote-unquote full board that has both of the trap cards face down. Alright, now I'm going to show you some of the combos with King of the Swamp for this deck. The main reason to want to play King of the Swamp is because it gives you really easy access to fusion monsters like Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, namely, but also Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon, among other cards that need a specific named monster as fusion material. So if you open King of the Swamp plus Faimena and then you happen to have any other monster card in hand, you can go about the combo line like this. We can go King of the Swamp in order to add Polymerization from deck to hand by discarding. Now I'm going to activate Polymerization, fusion summoning Dracotail Arthelion using the Faimena plus random monster card from my hand. This will activate our trigger effects. As always, Arthelion's going to be Chain Link 1 to dodge Ghost Spell. We're going to want to return the King of the Swamp as well as Faimena from graveyard to hand. And then now we can activate the graveyard effect of the Faimena as well. We're going to set the Rahu Dracotail from our deck. Now we can activate the face down Rahu Dracotail, summoning Golemel, and we are going to want to use the Orgola from our deck as well as the Faimena from the hand as materials. At this point, we can activate the Orgola graveyard effect and set one of our trap cards here. As always, it'll just depend on whatever else is in your hand, which one you want. And then we're finally going to use the Orgola effect in order to return the Faimena from graveyard to hand. So this looks like one of the, quote-unquote weaker setups, but remember that we still wield the King of the Swamp back to hand. So during the opponent's turn, we can fusion summon, and then, again, that will allow us to potentially summon things like Red Eyes Dark Dragoon or Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon to our field. The Dragoon in particular, of course, is a very powerful card that can act as both a towers and then potentially sometimes as a negate. Of course, we're not really using normal monsters here, so I don't know if you actually really get the negate effect, but having a towers is nonetheless pretty solid here. But if you open Dracotail Lukias instead of Faimena with the King of the Swamp line, your board actually gets way better, because we can normal summon the Lukias. We're going to activate the effect in order to add Faimena from deck to hand. Now we can activate our King of the Swamp effect to add polymerization. Just like last time, we're going to activate our polymerization, and I'm going to fusion summon the Arthelian using the 2 monsters in my hand. Now we get these trigger effects. As always, Arthelian, Chain Link 1. We're going to bounce King of the Swamp and Faimena back to our hand, and then we'll use the effect of the Faimena in our graveyard in order to set Rahu Dracotail. Okay, so we are going to link the Lukias off into Spirit with Eyes of Blue. That way we can go for a Heretic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. And after that, we're going to flip up our face-down Rahu Dracotail. As always, you'll want to summon the spheres before activating Rahu, because remember, Rahu locks you into fusion summons for the rest of the turn. Alright, let's summon our Golemel. We're going to use the Orgola from deck, and then the Faimena from hand. Summon like so, we can activate the trigger effects of both our Arthelian, which will be Chain Link 1, and then we're also going to want to do the Orgola as Chain Link 2, and that will allow us to set one of our trap cards from the graveyard face down. We'll summon right over here, and then as always we're going to want to use the Orgola graveyard effect in order to bounce the Faimena back to our hand. So now we have once again the same setup, but also with the spheres, bounce, and body on the board. As always, you could go for Mululu, use that to not only get more fusion summons, but also negate a card. And then we still have the option, because we've got King of the Swamp in hand, to go for something like Red Eyes Dark Dragoon if we wanted to. So earlier on in the video, I touched on the fact that we were going to cover Magistus lines as well, because Spenta is actually going to be not only a combo that sets up your Dracotail stuff, but adds other stuff to your end board as well. Now, of course, Spenta is not yet out in the TCG, so this is going to be an OCG/Master Duel sort of exclusive combo line here. If you've got Spenta plus any other monster card in hand, we can activate Spenta in order to add the Zorora from our deck to our hand. Now we can normal summon the Zorora and activate the effect in order to equip it with the Artemis from our extra deck. This will trigger the effect of our Zorora in order to special summon Spenta from the graveyard. Now we can make Borreload Savage Dragon using these 2 monsters on the field. Borreload Savage Dragon effect will activate, equipping itself with the Artemis from our graveyard. This will give you the counter on the Borreload Savage Dragon, and we can also activate our Artemis effect in order to add Crowley. Now we get the Crowley effect in order to summon itself from our hand. We'll just throw it right over here. Now we are going to activate the effect of Spenta, equipping Crowley with Zorora from our graveyard. And at this point, we can actually summon Snake Eyes Doomed Dragon, sending our 2 monsters in the spell trap zone. Remember that the Borreload Savage Dragon will retain its Borrel counter, so it can actually still act as an Omni Negate, even if the equipped monster is no longer on the field. Alright, now we are going to not activate Doom Dragon's effect. We're going to link into Spirit with Eyes of Blue, and then finally we can go into our spheres using Spirit and Doom Dragon. So this does a number of things. Even though it doesn't look like it, this is actually going to be full Magistus end board. Because what's going to happen is our sphere can bounce a card and then summon Dracotail Mululu from our deck. We can then use Mululu's effect to fuse it with our random monster card in the hand and summon Dracotail Arthelian, which of course is going to be this one here. The Arthelian effect will then get to activate, and we can return the Crowley that is in our graveyard to our hand. This will actually trigger Crowley's effect because it was added to our hand to special summon, and then we can also activate the on summon effect in order to fuse Crowley plus the Dracotail Arthelian into Zorora the Magistus Vethenrug. This guy. So that's how you can set up Dracotail and Magistus plays off of just opening Spenta plus any one random card in the hand. Not to mention the fact that we got to add the Borreload Savage Dragon Omni Negate to this board as well. making this a very worthy variant of Dracotail to try out in the Master Duel meta. Alright, so this here is going to be my day 1 build for Pure / King of the Swamp Dracotail. I've got it separated into engine followed by non-engine, so we got the 3 of each Lukias, Faimena, Mululu, 2 of each Pan and Orgola, although I am thinking about going 3 Orgola and then just 1 Pan. Of course, our playset of King of the Swamp, we got a playset of Ketu Dragontail, Rahu Dragontail, the Polymerization for King of the Swamp, and then our 2 trap cards. And that's it for engine. It's pretty tight, actually. So for off engine, I've got all the standard hand traps you'd expect to see, as well as, of course, Call By and Crossout. Extra deck is going to be mostly multiple copies of Dracotail stuff, followed by some random, fusion monsters you might expect to use. The Secretarian Dragon is not yet out in Master Duel. At the time of recording this, I don't know if it'll be in the pack with Dracotail, but if it is, you'll definitely want to include it. And then, of course, we have our, King of the Swamp options here as well. And here we have the build for Magistus Dracotail. It's actually really not that different. You can see here in the extra deck, I cleared a lot of the non-essential extra deck cards / stuff used for King of the Swamp to make room for all the stuff we need to play for the Magistus extra deck package. You could also consider playing one of the Xyz monsters as well for more Magistus equip options instead of, one of these sort of random extra deck monsters here. Well, not spheres, of course, that's not random, it's very much needed. But you could cut like Typhone pretty comfortably. And then, yeah, in the main deck, the only real commitment is the Spentas, we got the Zorora, and then the Crowley as well. So this is what the Dracotail build looks like. Like I said, very, very similar to the Pure build, because it does tend to play very similarly, with the exception of also having these Spenta lines. So there we go. I really hope that this was all helpful to you, this deep dive into Dracotail. I am really eager to try this archetype out. It does require a lot of commitment as far as cards in hand in order to start your plays, but it does a very good job on recouping you on those resources used. So it's a bit of a weakness that it also accounts for in its comboing as well. Either way, I'm very eager to see just how good this deck is going to be in the current Master Duel meta, and definitely let me know what you think of these combos as well as Dracotail's status in the meta in the comments below. But that's going to go ahead and do it for now. Thank you as always for watching. Let us move now to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.